Hello, welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Drag the Musical. Before I get into this one, please remember to like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps me grow this channel and be able to see more theater and share my thoughts about it. So, Drag the Musical. This is mainly the brainchild of a performer named Alaska Thunder 5000, who I am familiar with from watching Drag Race, and I also listen to her podcast. Her boy name is Justin Andrew Hunard, and he was a musical theater kid, so not surprising that he wanted to combine drag and musical theater. I find Alaska / Justin very talented, a great performer, and inventive and funny. So I had high expectations. And my expectations for drag excellence were met. The drag was fantastic, phenomenal. Everyone looked great. The costumes, the wigs, the makeup, the performances, everything top-notch drag excellence. Now, musical excellence, not as much. We'll get into that. So the show begins with a prologue, which is narrated by none other than Liza Minnelli. And she tells us about two drag bars created by two drag queens who used to be lovers, and then they split up. Now they're rival drag queens and drag bars. So this is how we get the exposition. It's a little bit lazy when it comes to writing to just have someone come in and say the exposition. It's a much more of a challenge to actually include that information in a scene that's dramatic, and we get the information through that. But hey, it was Liza Minnelli, and it was fun to hear her, and it did set the tone of the show. It's kind of, my expectations were like, okay, let's not get our expectations too high with this. This is going to be camp and fun and silly, so let's go with that. But I was confused right away because the prologue sets us up for a storyline that's about two rival drag queens. But that's not what the storyline is about. The story centers around a drag queen named Alexis Gilmore, played by Nick Adams, and they have failed to pay their taxes, and the IRS is going to come, and they're running out of money, and the drag bar is going to have to close as a result of this. So Alexis reaches out to her straight brother because he's an accountant. His name's Tom, and he's played by Joey McIntyre of Backstreet Boys fame. I don't know my boy bands. Of 90s boy band fame. And Joey shows up with his son, and we learn that his wife passed away, and he seems perfectly accepting of his brother and this drag scene. But as the show progresses, we learn that Alexis felt bullied as a child, and she's harboring a lot of anger about that. And then we also find out that Tom's son, Alexis's nephew, is interested in drag. And there's a moment where Tom discovers Brendan is the name of the kid. He discovers Brendan trying on some drag and gets very upset about it. It was a little bit of confusion because the guy we meet at the beginning seems like someone who's okay with all this, and then we find out he's kind of not. Also, there's a love story between Tom and an AFAB, which means assigned female at birth, drag queen, who starts to fall in love with Tom, and they have a romance there. It's a lot of plot points. There's probably enough plot points in this 90-minute show for 3 shows. So this is the main plot. It's not about two rival drag queens. And I felt like everything that happens in the other drag club was unnecessary and repetitive, because the show starts out with a song called Welcome to the Fish Tank. That's the name of the club that Alexis owns. And it's Alexis and 3 drag queens. And then Alexis has basically her I Want song. Thank you for giving us that. And that's called She's All That. Then the other drag house comes in and they repeat it, and they do the exact same thing. They sing a different song called Cat House Fever, and then Alaska sings a song called Queen Kitty. Already the writer in me was going, why are we repeating the opening 2 numbers? We're doing it twice. Okay, we need to talk about sound design. Alaska, your sound design is terrible. Now, I don't know if this is because the space is very difficult, but most of the lyrics were just a wash. I could not understand them. First of all, this theater seems to have some kind of air conditioning unit up in the right hand corner of the audience. I've seen other shows in this space, but I think it was on the other side. But on the right side, there's this droning sound of this air conditioner. I think most people are probably unaware of it because we're in New York City and we're just used to there being noise constantly. But the problem with having this droning sound is that it just muddies everything. And then on top of that, the guitar heavy songs are overwhelming the lyrics. A lot of the lyrics also are coming out at a very fast pace, and there just wasn't any space in the orchestration to make it so that we could hear those words. Now, I have to say, though, that there are about 20 songs in this show, in a 90-minute show, and none of these songs are really more than 2 minutes. So not understanding the lyrics wasn't the end of the world, because most of these songs really were a one-joke idea, or just they wanted to comment, oh, drag queens like wigs, or drag is expensive, or I'm a straight dude. And they were really just kind of one-off verse, chorus, done songs. They don't really move the plot forward. There's not an A to B arc. They're just kind of commenting on some aspect of the drag experience. But I know Alaska is funny, and I bet these lyrics were funny, and I wish I could hear them because I bet there were laughs to be had. Another confusion I had was the casting of Nick Adams as Alexis. This is the main character, our main drag queen. And you would think that you would use a drag artist for this main character. Now, I don't know how Nick identifies, but I've seen him in lots of shows on Broadway, and he was playing a drag queen in many shows. He did Le Cage aux Folles. He was one of the Cagelles, and he was also in Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. He's been in drag. But if you don't know who Nick Adams is, he is a very masculine man. He has gigantic muscular arms. This guy clearly goes to the gym. He's taking his protein shakes. He's doing everything he needs to get as big and meaty as he can be. So, yes, there are muscular drag queens out there, but they're not the most common drag queen. And for our lead character, I really wanted a feminine looking drag queen. And this is also because when Alexis and Tom have this argument about how Alexis was treated as a child and being bullied, I'm looking at this big muscular dude and I'm going, who's gonna bully you, man? Casting Nick wasn't really serving the story for me because this character didn't need to be a big muscular drag queen. In fact, I think it would have benefited from a more traditional femme appearing drag queen. And it didn't help that the choreography and the staging and everything had Nick constantly just showing off his guns. He came on at one point with like a poncho on and I was like, thank you. He's starting to look like a woman. I really wanted the show to be campier than it was because I feel like drag queens really are at their best when they're being campy and catty and nonsensical and just stupid, right? Some of my favorite moments during the show is I love Alaska's entrance because Alaska has such a great drag persona. She just comes in and you're like, who is this? And she's very dry with her delivery. I just think she's hilarious. So I wanted more of that kind of dry drag queen reading. And she makes one comment about the Gazillion Bubble show playing in the theater next door. Anytime they got meta and they talked about we're doing a show off Broadway and we're drag queens, that stuff to me was hilarious. I also really loved Jan and Laguna, who play Savannah and Tuner. They're both excellent vocalists, and they had some moments in the show where they really got to show off their vocals. They had one moment where they're competing against each other. Love that part. Anything that was really draggy, the show excels at that because these are great drag queens. The things that didn't work as well were when we tried to get all emotional and heartfelt. The scene about Brendan, who's played by, there's two people. Okay, so the part of Brendan Hutchinson, which is the young boy who is interested in drag, is played by Yair Kidar and Remy Tuckman. Let me see which one I saw. There are no photos because this is off Broadway. I don't know who I saw. How do I know? How do I know which boy I saw is Brandon? I don't know who I saw. All right, sorry, but here are their names. He was fantastic, but he has a scene with the father where it's all about he wanting to be a drag queen, and I'm not into sentimentality. And the problem is in this 90-minute crazy show of 1.5-minute songs, this emotional moment was not earned. and it just felt uncomfortable for me. Didn't like it. But it didn't last too long and it was okay again. Also, cast-wise, this is really a mixed bag. You've got people like Nick Adams, who's done lots of Broadway, Jayleen Marcos, Eddie Corbich, but then you've also got people like Lex Nora London, who's primarily known for Drag Race, and then you've got the people in between like Jan Sport, who loves musical theater, is a great singer. So you've really got a variety of different people with different abilities on the stage. And what I did find is that some of the drag performers aren't so great at delivering dialogue, especially landing a joke. It's a real talent and it takes work to do. Of course, Alaska was great at it because that's what she does. Also, the sound design didn't help with this too. Tuna has a very thick Latina accent, and she had some liners where the way she said the line, I was like, that sounds like it was funny, but I didn't understand what she said. There needed to be subtitles for better sound design. One other thing, all of these plot points are wrapped up pretty succinctly at the end of the show using a device that you see coming from a mile away, and yet at the same time it's still a little bit confusing. I don't want to give away what that is, but if you like the musical Waitress, then you'll be fine with it. So go see Drag the Musical if you want to see drag excellence. If you want to just have a fun time, if you want to have some drinks and just enjoy a campy evening, and it's only about 90 minutes. The set design, the costume design, the wig design is great. So for that, go check out Drag the Musical. Don't